And then Sherman County wants me, they were excited about it, they're really on it. They want me to present it to Kathy and to Judge Showalter. They just want them to know what's coming down the pipes.
Yeah, it's definitely a need. And
it's absolutely a need.
But like I say, without knowing more personally, I want to.
Yeah, we feel like we're treading into something we're not real comfortable with.
Personally, because I deal with this basically every day, is
Right.
I want to know how you're going to handle indigent patients. I mean, if you have someone coming from court services for services and they get an assessment and they need treatment, how is that going to be paid for when they can't? That's my question.
How is it paid for now?
Well, the agencies that people have been going through, there's state funding. I think you go through, what did they used to call it, options? Not options, value source or something to that effect. And they would get qualification for state funding to pay for the treatment. That's my question, because most of the individuals that you are going to be dealing with are those that cannot afford this and are not going to have insurance. And so if they aren't going to get the treatment that they need, then they're going to be in violation of their supervision and they're going to be going back into jail.
But are you saying that the facility they go to has access to?
No, whoever is doing the evaluation, whoever does the assessment, with because I've worked with RADAC, I've worked with Recovery Way, which they can't do the state funding thing anymore. They can still do the assessments, but if it comes to any sort of treatment,
So they probably have grants with those agencies. I'm going to guess.
No, I want to say it's called Value Source or Value something, but there's I'm sorry, I can't remember who it is. But no, whomever does the assessment ends up doing the referrals, and if there is funding that is needed, it's my understanding it's their responsibility.
I don't know how they can tell somebody that just did the assessment, you have to pay for their whole...
No, not them individually, it's state funding.
What's what I'm saying. I bet that entity has applied for state funding for covering those things. It's like for us to open up and we do an assessment for $175, and we're recommending you have to go do 30 days a stay, our agency would never be able to support 30.
No, but you make application through whomever this entity is that I cannot
That's
remember.
what I'm thinking, is there's probably a third party. You think it's called Value something or other?
I can't remember the name of the entity because I was never a part of that.
That's okay. I can do some research and
It's just the people that I did the
find out.
assessments with, I'd be like, okay, we need to go ahead and find them treatment because we'd already had to prove that they're indigent.
Sure.
And so they know that they don't have the resources to pay for it or the insurance.
And you think it gets them through Medicaid? So are you
No.
saying that people are on Medicaid already? No.
They have nothing.
So who determines that they're indigent?
There is a criteria for whomever it is that they go through for this state funding.
Okay. I'll have to do some research and find out.
Sherry, I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to table this discussion until we can come up with some more information and just be a little more comfortable with what we could possibly be funding here. Do you not agree with that?
That's the way I look at it, But I don't think we're not saying no. We're just saying.
I don't know if we're saying no, but I don't see any way we can put 11,000 every year in the budget.
Yeah.
We're under a tax levy, and
Sure.
about every dollar we have
Sure.
is spoke for.
Well, and I'm not asking for 11,000 every year. I'm just asking for whatever's in your alcohol tax fund every year, because it's got to be paid. It's supposed to be paid to
But where
an
you-
agency
I don't know
providing
where you're
services
going.
in your county.
I like your idea.
I get it. You
Are
can't
you gonna-
create
are you-
money. I get that. I
But
get
I
it.
mean, you said you need 325,000 to operate the first year.
That's
What do
for
you-
the startup cost and
Right. What are
everything.
you expecting
After that,
after that?
250.
250,000.
And
Are you getting state funding for that?
there's
you
big.
think Anson's going to put money in every year?
No. Only the first year. They'll only
Just
do for the. They will do that for the first year. They will fund operating expenses and startup costs. But because we have to go raise 100,000 in order for them to consider the rest of it, that's where we're accessing the community county foundations. That one always gets me a tongue twister. Because most of the counties have what they call a community block grant through their community foundations, which is also funded through Dane Jansen. Every county gets $100,000 a year, 50 in the spring and 50 in the fall. And then it's called a community block, and then they can use it for whatever. Each county can decide how they want to use that. So what we've done is applied to several of the counties, not all of them, like 3 of them. And so that will fund like our computers, our desks, the copy, things that we physically, the tangible things that you can go and buy. And then hopefully we can get the balance from the counties on to get to that 100,000. That money that comes to those community foundations doesn't count against us in the 100,000 from Dane G. Hansen. So then the balance would go back to Dane G. Hansen.
We're gonna have, like they were saying, I think we've got to go to the auditors. This 3,700, I don't even know if there's been the third of it transferred out of there to Parks and Recreation yet. I don't have a clue. And then there's a third supposed to go where? To the general. I don't know if this is the
And again, it
total
goes back
amount
to
or if we've already made our transfers.
Yeah, we are. We're just going to have to table this until we can get a clearer picture of our final budget.
So when do you think that might be? When can I come back and bug you again?
I think you also need to see what the other counties are.
Yeah, we'd really be interested in what other counties.
But if everybody says that, then we're never going
Sure,
to get anywhere.
sure, and I understand it. And they're just
Well, I
as
just
timid
want
as
to
we
make
are.
sure that the people that are needing to be served are being served. And that's why I bring up my concerns in regards to how is their treatment going to be paid for when they can't, and bringing up the state funding and such.
And we don't want to grab something by the tail that we can afford today but cannot afford 2 years from now.
Yes.
Well, and like I said, I'm not asking for money for next year. I've got to worry about this year first to get up and going. I think once we're up and going between the SB 123 and private insurances and then the huge block grants through the state, there's between the opioid crisis and the mental health crisis, there's a lot of grants out there. And we could wait to apply for those, but people need our help now. I'm the mother of 3 adult sons that are addicts. You've represented one of them, as a matter of fact. I have been there and done this for 10 years, and I knock on wood, all of mine are doing really well and living in long-term recovery right now.
You understand my passion to make sure they're taken care of.
Absolutely. I have been to more courtrooms. I've been the only parent sitting in a courtroom with a whole 2 benches full of people trying to see the judge. And I have had strangers say, "Ma'am, would you mind to sit here with me because I don't have anybody here for me." And that breaks my heart because I would never miss one of my kids' appointments for something like that. I've been there when they've sentenced my son to go to prison 4 times. He went to jail or went to prison 4 times for probation violations. Never been to prison for his underlying sentence, but he's been there on 120-day quick dips. I've been there, so I know that people need help out there. I wish I knew this program 10 years ago. My kids would never have had to gone through what they've been through. But
Well, I agree with you. It's something that we really need, but
you got to figure out the money.
we got to figure out how we're going to make
Sure,
it happen.
sure.
Same as what you're doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why I'm not opening the doors yet till I know we can. I don't want to open the doors and know, okay, we got enough money to do this for 3 months. I want to know I've got enough to go for a year because then that gives me a whole year to come up with the next year, But I really think with the big block grants, those are big grants through KDADS, KDOC. There's a lot of big grants out there. It's just a matter, they don't usually post till April, May, then they leave it open, and then they don't fund till the middle of July. By the time you get your money, it's taken me 10 months to get this far to doing everything, getting everything planned out to be able to answer people's questions.
Well, give us the opportunity to check with our auditors and see what is actually in that fund.
Sure.
Exact numbers, not estimates. Unless they come back in a couple of months and we'll do it again.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to
Sure.
me.
And we all have,
You're fine. You're fine.
and we have a definite interest in what you're doing. We know the need. We're well aware of it.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, is how do you get going, and you're experiencing that.
Well, and, people are like, well, everybody loves this idea. It's like, why has nobody done this before? Because it's a lot of stinking work. That's why they haven't done this before. And it takes a lot of money, and most people just don't have, number one, the interest, or number two, the passion. And having been there, done that enough times with my own kids, I get it.
Well, we appreciate that there are people like you willing to put out this kind of effort.
Well, I used to work at Options. When you said Options, I used to be an advocate, a family advocate over at Colby for Options, domestic and sexual violence services, and almost every one of my clients for that is also dealing with addiction.
Sure they are.
And that was the only thing that let me leave, is knowing I was still going to get to come back and work with some of those clients.
Well, it's a proven fact. Addiction is the
Trauma.
hub and the wheel that creates all the problems.
Yeah, and there's got to be a better way. And I'm excited that Kansas, usually we're the last one to know anything, and for Kansas to only be one of 6 states that's jumping on this program, that's pretty exciting. And to be the only organization west of Salina to do it, I think it'd be really cool for us.
Well, keep the communication lines going.
Okay.
If you come up with some new,
Do you want less money?
no, keep us posted on how you're progressing.
Okay.
And you can do that through Scott's office, and he'll forward the information on to
Okay.
us, because we are interested.
Okay.
And
We'll get there.
we will
I'm
try.
not giving up. So
We will try. Here's the only promise I'll give you: we will try our best, and
Okay.
that's all we got.
I get you. It's not like you knew I was going to come walking in here and asking for this a year or two ago.
Yeah,
You
well.
were doing your budgets. But we got to ask.
Sure, and we
The
don't.
answer is no unless you ask.
We don't hold that against you at all. I think we just need to get some information from ourselves and from how you're progressing, and
Perfect.
see where we're at.
All right.
All right,
Well,
thank you.
Uh-huh.
Good morning, Helen.
Good morning. I forewarned you it might take a little bit.
God, look at that paperwork she's got.
Well, I didn't know exactly what she wanted, so I brought several things.
We asked her to come in and ask
Well,
her questions about.
and I need to start off by apologizing for not being able to attend the January meeting, because I felt like that probably was going to be pretty important,
Well,
but we wound up
Yeah.
having some sickness.
it was an important meeting. However, the press was there, so there were a lot of things unsaid.
So I guess the burning question I have is, why are not any of these taxes being paid on the properties that we have around?
Well, there's no money.
But yet they come and want more money.
That's right. I didn't make copies of this, so we kind of have to share. I firmly believe that the Northwest Kansas Planning and Development and Pioneer Country Development are important to our communities. Pioneer Country Development for the infrastructure to your cities and counties, and Pioneer Country for your local businesses in the private sector with the funding. But over the last several years, I've asked an awful lot of questions. I don't always get answers. And some of the questions I have are what I want to show you that I've asked today. One of the things we did was we asked about all the loans that have been granted through Pioneer Country Development. And so what we got was this list that lists the loan, where it's from, the funds that were given, how much was paid, and here's the write-offs. And if you look at this one that I've highlighted, that is a former business in Cheyenne County, which is no longer. Mm-hmm. If you look at the amount of the original loan, you will also see that that is the exact amount that was written off. I said, I know that this person made payments.
So where'd that money go?
And he said, and Randy said, well, yeah, but it was mostly interest. And I said, well, where did that go? And he said, back here. And that was at a meeting. He had to have paid some of the principal, but it doesn't show up on here. Neither does the interest that was paid. And this is just the one I'm most familiar with. There's others in Cheyenne County, but those are the kinds of questions that I ask, and those are the kinds of answers I get. I don't know where that money is.
He was pretty evasive when I tried to talk to him
Can you see
also.
that, Helen?
Yeah. And like I said, I did make copies because I wasn't sure what you wanted. One of the other things, and this is with Pioneer Country Development, is without board approval, and this is the profit and loss statement for January and February of last year, you will see that $40,600 was transferred to Northwest Kansas Housing to be reimbursed. Now, in January and February of last year, that total amount taken out to housing was $81,000. It shows to be reimbursed. Yet if I look, and this is from our last meeting, where he has the 2020 budget projections, and he has these throughout the years, you'll see that $81,114 was a donation. I asked at the meeting, why is that shown donation? He said, well, that's just what we put in there because that's what was on the line. This Northwest Kansas Travel Council, and they also do the books for Travel Council, that would have been the $114. But if I look at Travel Council for the entire year, there's no $114 there as a donation or anything else.
Can you shed some light on why Ellis County bailed out?
Ellis County is short of money. And in their county, and a lot of the community development block grants are based on income. So their entire county doesn't qualify for that. At the last meeting, there was a coalition from Ellis there, the city of Ellis, which was the mayor, the city clerk, and I think 3 or 4 council people. And they're concerned because they just got CDBG. And so since then, they met with the county commissioners. The commissioners apparently, and this is just hearsay from conversations I had, initially what Ellis County commissioners said is they would only pay part of it. Their part is like $40-some thousand. They were going to pay 20-some, and it was pointed out to them that if they don't pay the full amount, then they're not entitled to the services without charging. So they're still having some discussion. What I see has happened, and I think this came up at the meeting in Ellis County, is that there has been a tremendous amount of money taken out of Pioneer Country Development and Northwest Kansas Housing or Northwest Kansas Planning to fund the housing over 19 years. And last year, it shows on this that a little over $30,000 was transferred to housing. And up here it shows that $103,703 was reimbursed from housing. That's almost 2/3 or 3/4 of the entire budget of a little over $100,000. I think housing is in trouble. The economic development director, who works out of Waukegan, and myself attended a housing meeting. When I walked out, quite frankly, I don't even know why they have housing. And kind of the setup is they have a good number of rental houses under Section 8, which is subsidized housing, that they manage. They also have built several buildings like, for low-income housing, like the ones in Bird City. And then there was, I believe, over $1 million that was given from Dane Hansen to build new affordable housing. Affordable housing, and the ones I'm most familiar with are the ones in Goodland. These homes were supposed to supposedly cost $175,000 to build. They would appraise at $125,000. The money from Dane Hansen would take care of that gap, which $125,000 could be considered affordable housing. There were no, and this was contracted with the college to build these. There was no contract. There was an open account with the lumberyard. They went and bought whatever they wanted. They had over $165,000 or $265,000 in the house, they sold it for $220,000. The Planning Commission and PCDI board members don't know what's for sale. They don't know what price it's for sale. When we ask how this money is going to be paid back, we're told it's going to be paid back from the sale of these houses. And as you can see,
Well, if you go in the
have
hole, if you
this-
sell
okay.
one every time.
Another house they got, the city of Goodland gave to them. They rehabbed it for $60,000. They sold it to the economic development director for $50,000. And 2 weeks ago, there was an 8-plex that they had in Russell that I think cost $200,000 to purchase. Bad condition, sold it for like $60,000 less than that. And there were 3 years of back taxes owed on that, and the comment was, well, I didn't know I had to pay taxes because I'm a nonprofit. On the counties that I have checked on, which are the majority of them, the taxes have not been paid for at least 2 years, if not more. There is no way, in my opinion, that this organization is going to be able to make it financially. My concern is that you've got probably 6 really good employees. You've got grant writers. And if you write the grants through them, you don't charge up front. You charge for success. It's part of the grant. And that's one of the benefits we have of being with that organization. I think it's important that our businesses have somebody to write the SBA loans and that we have funding for that. But right now, there's a request for a business to take out a loan, and there's not enough funds in there to even cover the loan. Yet it's being presented to the loan committee. I was the past president of PCDI. I stepped down because I don't like sitting next to Randy at the meetings. I want to look him in the eye when I ask these questions. His evaluation, in my opinion, was not really good. I think if something needs to be done, it's up to the county commissioners to do that. You've got 18 counties that pay into this organization with a mill levy. Some of them, in this case, the city pays. But a lot of the commissioners are unable to attend the meetings. They haven't attended the meetings because way back when, everything was fine. Well, I'll tell you, nothing is fine right now. And I'm concerned about the employees. I'm concerned about whether they're going to get paid, if we can keep them, and the organization as a whole. And quite frankly, it's an administration problem. It's a big, big problem. Once the money goes into housing, we don't have access to that. And obviously, you know that I'm not welcome to serve on that committee.
So is this ever audited?
It's audited, but when you have an audit, my understanding is what gets audited is what the auditors are given.
Yep.
If you have a forensic audit, and I'm not sure exactly what that is, but it was suggested to me that maybe that be the kind of audit that they have. But regardless of the audit, you still have a problem with administration, a big problem.
Well, it seems like an audit might give you some grounds to change administration. Maybe
Well,
not.
if you're taking a loss on your sales and you're moving money around that's not transparent, I think you got a
Sounds
problem.
like they're cooking the books.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't like to say things like that.
Do you need an audit, or do you need to change who's administrator?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's going to take the county, all county commissioners being at a meeting to decide that. And you may get a call from one of the counties to see if you can meet.
Well, I've been in contact with a commissioner from Sherman County, and he's well aware that we've got problems. We just don't know how to approach it. Because like you say, if you go to one of those meetings, and particularly the one in December, was just not the environment
No, it was not.
to light that match. And it sounds like January wasn't any better.
No.
Is this totally funded from county money?
The planning commission it's all county money, except when they write the grants, then they're also paid out of the grant monies. And that's pretty much where their
What
funding
was their
comes from.
request?
Well, we split it with the city.
It's like 3,000 something for the county.
$3,217, but they owe, I think, more than that. And
They owe
Nine-
18,000.
9,000, I got the numbers here.
Well, with this, what was currently due, it's about 18.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, because they were past, the back taxes and then the current ones are on there, yeah. So I think it's about 18,000 is what is owed on there.
And that's where the commissioners are at. Why are we giving them money when they're not paying it?
Yeah, why would we give you money that,
They don't let people with back taxes on boards in Cheyenne County, but
well, here's the thing, why would I use taxpayers' money to support this when they don't pay their taxes?
Well, they don't have the funds to fulfill the promises.
But like Ellen says, she's right. It's an administrative problem.
Yeah.
because it's a good, I mean, what they've done
It
in
looks to
this
me like,
county has been
it looks to
great.
me like if there was a independent audit, things would get really, really quick. I mean, if you don't have somebody come in and have access to all of the books, the audits will work in your favor.
Well, in your opinion, what needs to be the next step here?
I think personally, and this is my opinion and my opinion only, I think the county commissioners or one commissioner from each county needs to meet separately from that building, and you need to discuss about how you're going to handle this. I wouldn't spend the money on an audit at this point. I would take some action. But the PCI board doesn't have enough people to do what needs to be done. And Randy needs to be gone, and that's the bottom line in my opinion.
So the PCI board cannot fire him?
We don't have, all right, we have a joint meeting. At the last meeting, we had a total quorum for PCDI. You had 5 county commissioners there for the planning commission. And that is where, you know, you've got 18 county commissioners, and you need, as county commissioners, to be on board. And I think that's where that's the action needs to come from. And like I said, I wouldn't even spend the money on an audit. Where are you going to get the money to pay for it? It can't come out of here because we don't have any money. And I really feel that if you didn't have somebody in there administering at this point, I have a lot of confidence in employees that they could make things work until you found somebody.
Doesn't it have an appearance of a little bit of misappropriations?
Yeah, I think
Well,
that
Isn't it about time maybe to notify some law enforcement
it is.
that this needs to be looked at? So how would
Which I was
we,
going to tell her aside, but yes,
well, my
now they're
mind,
alerted.
yeah, well, I think it's important we,
Yes, the thing of it is that this is a misappropriation fund because they're taking funds from one entity, using them in another with the promise to pay it back, but I don't think you even have the authority to loan that money. So, you know, that we've got a lot of, there's an appearance of impropriety
Right.
here. And because of that, and you're using taxpayer money, you're under a lot more regulation in regards to what you can and cannot do with this money. Further, you've got a bunch of grants that are involved. And if these grants are not being followed to the T, that's another issue. And so, you know, personally, I think that a report needs to be made to law enforcement, and law enforcement can get the KPI involved because it is a multi-county issue.
so we need to contact the Attorney General's office, probably.
Well, no, it has to go to law enforcement first.
So can we use any law enforcement entity to
Yes, I
start
mean,
this
Helen
off?
could go to Cody and say, I've got this going on, or this is what I have found. And then with the request that, you know, the KBI be involved, because they can do your forensics.
Sure.
See if they'll take it. They may not take it.
Well,
I don't
I'm
know.
almost thinking that's about the point we're at.
Like I said, just something's got to be done.
Well, it's just getting muddier and muddier.
And this has been, and for the last 2-3 years, I've been pretty vocal at the meetings, and so have some other people. I think
But you've been kind of swept to the,
and I
Back
would
of
say
the
at this
building.
point, you've got quite a few county commissioners that are aware of what's going on, and they have some big concerns. And Ellis County definitely has some big concerns. And my understanding that they had some facts and figures that.
well, being the most populous county, they have a better ability to
Yeah.
go through this information
Mm-hmm.
and
But these are just some of the things I see, and I never get a good answer for anything. And when you don't have money to loan to your local businesses because the money has gone into the housing And it's never going to be paid back.
No.
You know, anybody that wants to expand their business or anybody wants to go into business, we don't have any money to do it. And that's what the purpose is of PCDI.
Because the dollars have been mishandled.
Yeah.
Well, this is what we needed to know.